Hello and welcome to Kuddick Farms. We're back with another episode of Farmville, North Carolina, and we're still in November here, and it's been a minute since we looked at our hogs, so I thought today we could take a look at the hogs, see how they're doing. Looks like they're filling out nicely here. It's showing we got a couple different varieties of hogs in the visual representation. However, if you look here in the animal menu, they're all the same. We are getting to about half of our reproduction time, which is great. Only a few more months and we'll be starting to make additional pigs. We do have enough food to keep going for a couple of months at least, and I know we've got more up at the feed mill, so I'm not too worried about that. What I'm interested to see is we are starting to gather some slurry. It's just a sliver. 17,000 liters is probably enough to give the new Pumps and Hoses DLC a try. I do have early access to that from Giants, and I've seen already a couple of videos people have got out kind of going over the equipment in the garage tour. I thought it would be a lot more fun if we just picked up what we need and jump into spreading some slurry on this field here, and just let's see if we can figure out how it works. Now, I've taken a quick look at some of the prices of that equipment, and it's pretty spendy, but we were going to need to invest in it at some point anyway, and so I'm going to take out a $200,000 loan here just to get us going. I think this is going to be enough money. Most of the equipment that we're going to need is going to be located in the slurry tanks section here, and if we just scroll all the way to the end, you can see we've got this new Pumps and Hoses pack. Now, there's a lot of equipment in here for transporting reels and things like that. All of our stuff is set up right next to the farm, so really we don't need to do any of that. However, unfortunately, there's no like placeable pump. I would have really liked to seen just like a little placeable that you could put down next to an animal yard that would allow you to just hook a hose up to it directly and pump that out. But I kind of looked through here. I haven't seen anything. I don't see anything in the documentation. And so that means we're going to need something to hold that slurry in. In the grand scheme of things, this might be useful as we pick up other things further away. I think I'm going to go with the trailer one because we can hook this up with all kinds of options. And they have the option to run water through with the manure, which makes the manure go a little bit further, if I'm not mistaken. And so I'm going to hook this up with a reel and a compressor. I think the compressor is what's going to force that water through the lines. And by putting a reel on here, it means I don't need to have a separate piece of equipment for that. And this does require 200 horsepower to run, which I think is going to be interesting. So we're going to go ahead and just buy this right out. And then to go along with that, there's a bunch of different applicators. To use any of these last three, you would need the separate pump here to be able to run the umbilical system. I think since we're a pretty small farm, I'm going to get this slightly smaller version here that has the umbilical built right into it so that we don't have to hassle with multiple pieces of equipment. It is pretty spendy. But with those two pieces of equipment, we now have a container to hold the slurry with a pump on it, and we've got the implement to apply that. So now all we need is a hose, which I believe is going to be under the pallets section. We have at the end here the umbilical hose, and we're just going to go ahead and get one of the largest ones and see if that's going to be enough. If not, we might have to buy a second hose here at some point. So we've gone ahead and had these three items delivered here, and honestly, getting started, this should be all that we need to be able to spread that slurry. So let's go grab some tractors and figure this out. I think I should probably use the bigger tractor on the slurry pump according to the ratings. I think we're going to try and get away with putting the smaller one on the pump and using the big one here out in the field. I just feel like this is going to be a better tractor to be out in the field pulling a toolbar. Not that I think that this spreader has a huge horsepower requirement. I think it's only like 70 horsepower. So maybe we will follow what the recommendation was. We'll go ahead and grab the tanker here with the big one that we've got enough horsepower on. And we're going to use this to go ahead and pick up the umbilical hose over here. And then I suppose we should run up and fill it with water, as well as then fill it up with a slurry. If we can just back up here to the hose. Not enough capacity left on the reel. Apparently this reel doesn't hold as much as that hose is. I've not paid close attention to that maybe. So looking here, this supports 1500, but apparently the reel must be smaller. If I put this reel on here, it doesn't tell me how much the reel holds. But I'm looking at this. This looks like it might be the smaller reel. So if we come in here and look, this holds 1.3 kilometers. This holds 1.7. Well, we'll come in here. We can always resell the hose that we've got. Maybe this is a 300? We'll try 300. And we're going to actually change this color up a little bit so that we can see it better anyhow. And let's see if I can get 300 meters of hose on this reel. Not enough capacity left on the reel. Wow, this reel must be pretty short. All right, we've got a 200 here, and that did end up going on there. So at least we know that we've got that much of hose reel available to us. We've got these other two hoses. We may end up using them. I'm going to actually go ahead and see if we can start unrolling this hose. I'm kind of curious. I don't know how long our field actually is. So we're going to push Z here. We're going to do Y. There we go. We're going to unwind this hose. We're going to see how long 200 meters gets us in this field. I'm really hoping that it's the length of the field, and we're going to be able to use this to spread our slurry, but I'm watching the size of that reel drop really quickly here, and it's making me nervous. Oh, we're out of room. All right, so 200 is not going to be enough. 300 might have been. We're going to run with this. We're going to see how far this gets us. I'm not too worried about it right now. I don't think we're going to have enough slurry to do the whole field, to be honest, but we're going to find out. So we're going to go ahead and fill this tank up with water. We'll play around with the hose. Maybe I'll just get another reel anyway here, and we'll do that real quick. Unfortunately, we don't have a front PTO on that other tractor, that blue one. I was kind of thinking maybe it'd be cool if we could put the reel on the front of it and the implement on the back. Alright, so we've got that thing all disconnected from the auger there. We're going to run this right on over, and we're going to grab the reel and go ahead and stretch out this other hose that we've got. We should probably sell this big black one that we have as well. We're not going to end up using that. I think these two orange ones are going to be more than enough for us here. And that fits up on here very nicely. So I think what we're going to do is come on up here. We're going to change this to unwinding mode. And I'm going to go ahead. I should have probably started where I ended the other piece, but we're going to go ahead and just unwind this hose as well. We'll get kind of this U shape going, and we'll when we get started here, I'm going to probably start on the other end of the field. I really should be unwinding this at off the edge of the field, or right on that far end along the tree line maybe, so it's not going to be in our way the whole time. But we'll sort that out. We'll get there. We'll get there. There we go. We're all unwound. We'll get it hooked up. We'll figure this out. I've never actually run a dragline slurry setup in real life, and so I'm kind of not sure what the appropriate way is to do some of these things. You know, I'm sure that there's best practice on where and how you unwind your hoses. And of course, we've got precision farming installed, so we're going to need to sort out how that works. Hopefully here it's going to work well. Now I've got the tool here for moving the hoses around. Swing this hose around here, and I think there's a way, if I get these close enough, to hook them up. There we go. All hooked up. And then we're going to run this down to the end here. And I'm trying to think, maybe what we'll do is we'll bring the hose connection there on the right over here. And I'll park the slurry tanker right over here somewhere. Actually, we could park the slurry tanker right up here by the house if we needed to, although it's not probably the best place to do that. I'm going to go ahead and unfold this here. Left shift Q, get the hose all hooked up to this, and then we'll got to get some actual slurry in the tank here. So let's go grab the tanker and run this back up to the hogs over here now that we've got our water. And I'm guessing, even though there's no pump or anything here, that this is where we're going to get our slurry. Perfect, and we've got plenty to fill this up, which is encouraging. That means that we're probably going to have enough to get quite far, I'm hoping, on this field. And realistically, I should have probably stuck to the road, not putting compaction on this field for no reason. But we'll come up here, I think, right to the front. We've got the other hose there. I'm trying to see where we actually connect on this trailer. I think it's on the left front side there, so we'll pull right on up here, I think. And park this thing right in here. And I don't think there's anything I have to do with that, so let's go ahead and grab this hose. And if I bring it over here, and then I always forgot, so we bring the hose over there, but then you have to get in and push Shift Q to attach the umbilical, and I was wrong. It's actually on the other side over here for the attachment, which is okay. It figures it out. And we've got the tanker on, and then we just have to actually turn the machine on. You can see it's starting to pump some water and the slurry through. And so we're going to go ahead and just dash over here and get going. I think I am going to drive up here to the end row, though, and get started on a straight swath. I want to make sure we're not crossing over the line too much here. Now, I do see that the hose has got a little bit of a graphical glitching going on there. That's all right. Hopefully it straightens itself out as we get going here. And we do have, I think, automatic application rates on here, so we're at 0 for nitrogen. I'm not going to try and get to the perfect value for our crop yet. We're going to just see what we can do here with what we've got. I'm going to get GPS going as well. Now, my understanding is a worker will actually function with this, but I think we're going to run this ourselves today. It's not going to take too long. This machine goes pretty fast, and GPS is going to work pretty good for us here on this, I think. And we'll get enough nitrogen on here to really offset the costs involved when we get into our planting here in a little while. And we'll be able to finish off that fertilizer either while we're planting or come in afterwards with something, either a dry spreader or some kind of liquid application. We are going to be putting corn in here, so we could definitely come back in with some side dressing. Now, I'm not quite sure why we're skipping now all of a sudden. So let's, so we ran back over here to the tractor, and we are already out of slurry. And so this is very concerning, because that was not a lot of ground covered. I know we are putting on probably a lot of the material here, but I was expecting that to last a bit longer. So we're going to go ahead and shut that down, disconnect it, and I guess run back up here and get a little bit more slurry. Now, given how fast that went and how big I think this tank is, I'm increasingly concerned that this isn't going to last that long. Now, we've got all this water in here. I don't know why the water portion of this is so much larger than the slurry portion. It seems like we don't use that much water. I would have expected the slurry tank to be the larger of the two tanks in this case, and or that it would use more water to kind of make that slurry go further. So I don't know. I might be doing something wrong. I'll have to play around with this a little bit more, but I don't see any other options in the menu for this thing. And yeah, it's just a little confusing. I mean, we've got over 2,000 gallons of water, and we didn't use hardly anything when we were running this tank. And of course, we've done this in the worst possible way. I should have figured out how to have this end of the hose down on the other end of the field so that we didn't have to drive so far to refill the slurry tank all the time. But that's all right. We're going to hook this back up. Now, I filled this slurry tank up twice. And if we look here, I'm not using that much of our slurry. I think we had 17K liters in here when we started. So we're going to get quite a bit more of this field out of this. And yeah, I can see the water is still going down. The slurry is definitely gone down to fill the hose. And if we jump back over to this side, as soon as we lower this down, it looks like it's good to go. And we'll just keep trucking here. I have to say, at least the speed is decent on this implement. It's not too slow, so you can actually cover some ground pretty quick. We're getting our slurry applied. You can see that the ground is nice and shiny, and we can see in our precision farming map that we are indeed getting nitrogen into the ground. So win-win for everybody. I think what we're going to do is when we run out here, as we get up down the field a little bit more, I will probably try to drive the slurry tank back to the other end. Let's see if we can actually back this up a few feet this time. And so I think we'll drive the slurry tank with the hose attached back to the other end and see if I can drag this hose with us on the other end. I don't know if this is approved or not. I probably shouldn't be driving over the hose either, but it is what it is. I'd rather be able to just hit the refill on the tank while I'm sitting there at the building and not have to worry about it. Now, I've got way too much hose here, but for this field, I could have done with not quite this much length. But this means I'll probably be able to drag all the way over into the other field without having to move this setup, which could be super nice. And so I'm going to park this right in here with our hose on the better side. We'll fill this back up and turn it on, and this should keep me going now. Again, it would be so nice if we just had a placeable pump, or if having this thing in the refill zone would keep it refilling automatically so I don't have to keep switching back and forth. Obviously, I could get the other placeable, that bigger tanker, would hold more slurry, the square one. I just kind of like the idea of having this, which was a bit more mobile and had all the options, but maybe I should look at that other one. Maybe that other one has the compressor and other options on it as well, and I just didn't notice. That's possible. Let's take a look. So yeah, this just had wheel setup options. I don't see the compressor. I don't see the option for water here. So that's where I like the idea behind this one. It's just in practice, I don't know if we're really seeing the value from the water as much as we could. I mean, we are definitely using some water. I would have to test to see what the difference is, and I don't know how precision farming is affecting all of this either. So either way, it's working, folks. It's working. So we're going to just keep going here and see how far we can get without running out. Hopefully we get to the end of this field. I guess if we're using 3,000-ish liters per run here, that we're probably not, because this is a bigger field than I had originally anticipated. The size of the equipment is pretty good, though. It's not too bad. There is a bigger one, but then I would have needed to have some additional equipment to have the umbilical set up, and I kind of like the all-in-one mode here. It's just a little bit easier to manage, especially on our small farm. So if this is something that you guys think you'd be interested in, definitely look into picking it up. I know it's more of an EU-style piece of equipment, but drag lines and this method of spreading liquid manure is something that I see commonly in the US. I know there's probably a lot of people out there that are cringing at my attempt at reproducing that here today. It's not something that I've personally gotten to do, but I know it is a common practice. I see it a lot in the areas that I've been that have hog farms. Definitely think about picking this up. There's a lot of functionality here, and I haven't even covered all of the stuff that you can do with the placeables. The biogas plant, if we open the construction menu briefly here, you'll see that we have all of these different silos for storing things, as well as the production systems. We've got all these factories for turning the stuff into digestate and methane, which you can then further turn into electricity, which sells for significant power. And so this is something that I haven't gotten a chance to play with, but I think that that could be a lot of fun, especially in big multiplayer servers. I could see wanting to fill up the biogas plant and just making a lot of money, trying to dig yourself out of the hole, because that equipment is all hundreds of thousands of dollars and is going to cost you a lot to get up and running. But the setup of those new biogas plants is quite awesome. I know DJ Goham did an excellent video on how all of that works here earlier today as well. And so I really recommend checking that out if that's something that's interesting to you. And if you do decide that you want to pick up the DLC, you can use the Kedrick Farms code. It helps the channel out a little bit. And quite honestly, it's the reason that I get early access to some of these things to check them out and talk to you guys about them ahead of time is because you guys have been so great at supporting the channel with those using that partner code for me. It's how I get into the higher levels of partner status with Giants. Now it looks like we are now out of slurry. I'm trying to keep going here, but oh, we didn't turn on the slurry pump. That helps. You got to turn the pump on here, folks, after it runs out, or you don't have any slurry to put on your field. So we got a few little spots here and there that we've missed. Thankfully, with precision farming, we're going to be able to fix those missed areas later on when we're applying fertilizer. There is a lot going on here with this whole setup, and so it's a little bit more advanced. It's not maybe something for everybody, but I'm definitely enjoying this. I love when there's some added levels of complexity for doing things like this. You know, sure, we could just be running and applying this with the tank directly rather than dealing with all these hoses and things, but I thought it was kind of fun here to check this out. In reality, it was a horrible investment on our part because we clearly do not have enough slurry to cover our fields with how bad a shape that they were in. But we're going to need this at some point. Our hog operation is picking up very quickly. We've got a lot of hogs in here, and as they start to multiply, we're going to get more and more slurry. And so this equipment is going to come in handy. I don't regret buying this and setting it up. We're going to keep it. We're going to have to set it to the side because we're not going to get more of this done anytime soon. But maybe we'll see if we can still apply once the ground is frozen in December. I'm not sure. We'll bump the clock ahead and do some of that, though, in next episode. I think this one is probably run on quite long with me figuring out how all of this works. If you enjoyed today's episode, drop a like. It helps me out immensely. If you have any questions about the pumps and hoses pack or more that you'd like to see, if you'd like an official tutorial video or something like that, let me know. I feel like we kind of stumbled through most of the core mechanics of the DLC here, And really, there's just a lot more equipment and the production side of things that we didn't get into. Maybe we'll have the town set up a biogas setup on their dime so that we can at least play around with those buildings in a different video here. However, that's going to be all for today. Kedrick out. So I thought today we would get stuck in a doorway. Let's back up here a little bit and get lined up. Oh, this is terrible. You don't really back up with one of these, I guess.